Even if Russia uses Chinese volunteers and the latest developments, the Ukrainian army will be able to hold off the enemy for as long as necessary. While the Kremlin throws new resources into the battle, Kyiv responds with modern technologies, effective defense, and loss of minimization. This is not only a fight for territory, but also for a principle. Ukraine fights smart and wins time. At the same time, Russia's losses in manpower and equipment are colossal. The Economist writes about this. Last month, the Russian army pushed Ukrainian forces out of part of the previously captured territory of the Kursk region. To do this, Moscow deployed elite brigades, North Korean troops, and even new weapons, fiber-optic drones, the control of which cannot be jammed. But then again, there was a stalemate. The fighting moved back into Ukrainian territory, but attempts to break through quickly petered out. The head of the Sumy Regional Military Administration, Vladimir Artyukh, said that the Russian assault groups that crossed the border had already been destroyed. Russia already tried to take Sumy in February 2022, but was pushed back 6 weeks later. Today, the city is being fortified again. New trenches, bunkers, and defense lines controlled by the SBU are visible behind the checkpoints. But despite the escalation, Sumy lives. As Artyukh notes, the city's population has even increased since the beginning of the war. The number of displaced persons who arrived is twice as high as those who left. In the first 3 months of 2025, Sumy Oblast was hit by 8,925 drones, bombs, and missile strikes. This is more than twice as many as in the same period last year, but there is no panic in the city. Military analyst Yuri Bucha is sure that Sumy is too well protected for Russia to capture it. Bucha believes that Moscow's current goal is to take control of the hills on its side of the border where Ukrainian troops are still stationed. This would allow the Russians to use drones more actively and push the Ukrainians out of the 10-kilometer strip, creating a buffer zone. Such a move would allow them to redeploy forces to the Donbass, Putin's key strategic goal. Residents of Sumy and Kharkiv have no illusions about a quick truce, but remain calm. Life must go on, that is the mood. In Kharkiv, despite the blows, pensioners dance in the city centre every Saturday, continuing a tradition that has lasted for more than 10 years. Meanwhile, in the east between Kupiansk and the Russian border, fighters from the Typhoon drone unit are noticing a lull. No offensive is expected, and they are preparing to redeploy to Pokrovsk. The unit has begun using its own fiber-optic drones just a couple of months after the Russians introduced them. According to Commander Mikhail, drones are already making the front dangerous for any equipment and infantry. This allows holding positions with fewer forces. If 6 months ago the Ukrainians feared a gradual rollback, today the defense has become stronger and the technology smarter. In more than 2 years of full-scale war, Russia has made almost no progress. Ukraine has learned to fight in a way that minimizes losses while preserving manpower. A peace agreement is not yet in sight, but Ukraine is relying on itself and is not retreating. The state borderline in the area of Sumy and Kharkiv regions has not existed since 2022, since the Russian Federation began to destroy all settlements in the 5-kilometer zone. This was stated by Ukrainian military expert Pavlo Narozny on the air on Radio NV, commenting on the attempts of the Russian Federation to bypass the positions of the defense forces of Ukraine in the Sumy region. We have a bridgehead in the Kursk region. It is located about 7 to 8 kilometers from Novienki and Bazovka, and between Bazovka and our bridgehead there is the Sumy-Sudza highway. All supplies to our bridgehead used to go along it. The enemy was able to enter Novienki. There is a river there and a forest belt runs along it. The enemy entered Novienki, goes along the forest belt and the river, and can reach Bazovka. Novienki has been completely destroyed by the Russians. It is impossible to find a whole house there. And when there are no houses, there is nowhere to gain a foothold, Narozny said. At the same time, he added that the settlement of Bazovka is relatively intact, so the Russians are trying to gain a foothold there. However, according to the expert, the defense forces constantly control this area and do not allow the enemy to carry out their plans. The expert also commented on the situation in the Belgorod and Bryansk regions. He noted that the greatest threat of the Russian Federation's spring-summer campaign is aimed at the Sumy and Kharkov regions. Therefore, the actions of the defense forces on Russian territory are associated with an attempt to destroy the occupiers' plans. Everything is being done to destroy the possibility of this offensive. Bridges and crossings are being destroyed. In the Belgorod region, 2 to 3 villages are under the control of Ukraine. But this is enough to place scouts there, groups that operate long-range drones and cut the enemy's logistics to a depth of 20 to 30 kilometers. And this means that it will be almost impossible for the enemy to approach and make a lightning offensive from the Belgorod region. These are preventive measures. Narozny added,